Hello, I'm Tara.
And I'm Jill.
We're the authors of the Dining on a Dime cookbook. 20 years old now, you can still eat better and spend less 20 years later. And today we are talking about a very controversial subject because one of the things that we get when we talk about food prices and prices in general with budgeting and that kind of thing is, oh, but prices are rising so high, I just don't know what I'm going to do. I just can't afford to buy food anymore. Every single day we get that comment. Every single day.
Using.
We get on either our Facebook, our YouTube, Instagram, our website, someone comments something to that effect. So we're here to tell you today, it's just not true.
It's just an excuse.
It's an excuse.
And what they do, what people don't realize they're doing is, if they can make an excuse about something, they can lie to themselves and even others.
And they don't have to take the responsibility.
They don't have to take the responsibility and really seriously take a look at the money they're spending.
Yep.
And I'm saying that not to be unkind necessarily, but things aren't getting fixed in your life. You keep thinking, well, I'm trying this. You're telling yourself you're wanting to do better, but until you face the reality of what the truth is and accept it and stop making the excuses like where I live, it's too expensive. What are some of the other excuses?
My cars are too expensive.
Yeah, this is too expensive.
Things aren't afford food
as cheap
anymore.
as they used to be. Those are all excuses. Or if you want to be honest with yourself, say they're lies that you tell yourself for not doing as an excuse not to do.
Now, this is kind of a part one of our video, and then part two, I am doing a video with my assistant Heidi, who for 10 years has, I think, it's been at least 10 years. She has saved every grocery ad.
Oh my God.
So part two is going to be specifically on groceries, but this part is on more general things. Housing, cars, TVs, that kind of thing.
Basically, to show you that excuse that things are much more expensive now and incomes aren't as high, we're going to throw that blow that excuse out of the water for you. So you're thinking, I don't want to watch this.
I'm waiting for the daggers. I'm waiting for the daggers.
So, do you want me to start? Or?
Go for it.
Okay. I did some research and I chose just a certain period about a little over 100 years ago of prices, because what happens is people look in these old antique magazines, they see them online, see the price that, an apple costs 2 cents or something, say, boy, I wish prices were like that nowadays. And I came up with these prices and lists of things to show you, and you can pick a lot of time periods back then, but to show you that don't wish that. People have no clue how much
good we have it.
Yeah, how good we have it and how much worse it was back then. We are so wealthy compared to that time period. People were literally starving up until right before World War II. People were starving in the United States. And that was one of the biggest problems, is malnourishment and that type of thing, because there was not enough money to buy the food. They couldn't grow enough crops and that type of thing. So I've got a list of some prices that I'm just going to run through just to give you a general idea of what things were. First of all,
what years were these that you were looking at?
This was like almost to the 1900s.
Early 1900s?
Late 1800s, early 1900s.
Okay.
That kind of. And of course, like nowadays, these vary, from part of the country that you were living in, the time period a little bit. This is just a general. And please don't email us and say, well, I looked this up and it was blah, 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 and it was blah, blah. We're talking just to give you a general idea. We took general basic, incomes and that. So first of all, the average income, middle class American, was about $15 a month around that time, just at the turn of the century, right before, in that period. So $15 a month, it's about 50 cents a day or so, and 5 cents an hour, generally, just, close to that. About 5 cents an hour is what people made. And what we don't always think about when we say, well, it was $15 a month, well, people worked 10-hour days, 6 days a week. So you can't translate that into just a 40-hour work week. They worked longer hours, and that $15 was for even longer hours that they worked back then. So we had to kind of factor all these things in to make this come out to work for you. Milk was 32 cents a gallon. Now, if you see 32 cents a gallon on an old ad, you're thinking, wow,
so cheap.
That's so cheap. But when we translated it out, they had to work 6 to 7 hours. And I want that to sink in. 6 to 7 hours, that's almost a full day's work for us to buy 1 gallon. We work 7 minutes to buy a gallon.
Let's just pause and let that sink in.
7 minutes.
You would have to work 6 to 7 hours to buy 1 gallon of milk. Let's have a moment. I cannot imagine any person being okay nowadays with working 6 to 7 hours to buy 1 gallon of milk.
Think about that.
You know what they would do? They would go to the food pantry.
They would.
Before they would have the integrity to work to pay for the milk.
Yeah. And
yep.
And people, we don't realize the abundance we have because of this. We can buy a lot more than milk. Mm-hmm. You know, we buy all the snacks, all the extras. We keep thinking all these special health diets and all this, if we eat all these special things, that's what's going to fix our health and make us better. They just couldn't eat back then.
Yeah.
Bottom line was. And so they didn't buy snack foods. Mm-hmm. We have that. That's what's wrong with our health now, is we got the money to buy all the extras.
So they had to work 7 hours. And we have to work 7 minutes. 7 minutes. The amount of time this video has been running, we could have bought a gallon of milk. Mm-hmm. And they would still be working.
They would still be working for a full day,
almost a full day.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And this, they had tea was 75 cents a pound. They had to work 12 hours to buy a box of tea. And the same amount now, we'd have to work 20 minutes. Okay, let's pause again, like Tara said. 12 hours to buy that tea that you chug-a-lug. That's tea that you make at home. That's not even tea from the convenience stores or going out to buy. I should have calculated that up. I can't even imagine what that would have cost.
Well, let's see. It would have
12 hours. This makes a lot of cups of tea.
Yeah.
A lot of cups. So you can't even hardly calculate that it would have been so much. 12 hours to buy tea bags. To buy I think it was 400, 500 tea bags. Cups of, Yeah. And we only have to work 20 minutes for that same amount. 12 hours, 20 minutes for tea. And, we could go down for coffee and all these other things. This is the one that gets me. Shoes. Shoes cost $2.50. Wouldn't that be great to buy shoes for $2.50? They had to work 50 hours. That would be us working 10-hour days for 6 days.
So to put that in perspective, for $2.50 back then, because I have my calculator here, my inflation calculator, it would have been $75 nowadays.
Yeah. And so they'd have to work a full long week, longer than what we work, for one pair of shoes. Okay, if there were, say, 4 members of their family, they would have to work all the money, every penny of money they worked that month would go for shoes, a pair of shoes for one family. Now you think about that. I want you to really sit and think about that. Mm-hmm. And the next time you're feeling discouraged, you're feeling depressed, and you're having a pity party. My husband lost his job. We're down to one income. I don't know how we're going to make it. You can make it. You really can.
Yeah.
And feeling sorry for yourself and discouraged, that's not going to fix the problem. You have got to jump. Say, okay, this is what it is. What can I do to fix it? Stop letting your emotions rule. Stop whining about how horrible our lot in life is. Seriously. So for us, they would work 50 hours. Okay, if I bought a pair of shoes for $1 at the thrift store, which I have done before, that same pair of shoes, I would have had to work about 30 minutes, I think, or
3 minutes.
3 minutes. I would have had to work 3 minutes. I don't have my glasses on. So Tara's reading for me. Okay, so they would have worked 50 hours. We would have to work 3 minutes for $1 pair of shoes. And if we paid $50 for that pair of shoes, they would have worked the 50 hours, and we would have had to work 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, and don't give us no lip. I gotta tell you, Mom and I find shoes at the thrift store for $1.
I do.
All the time. Even if you don't find them at the thrift store for $1, you can easily find brand new, completely brand new shoes for $5 to $8 at the thrift store. I see them almost every week.
I found on clearance $2 for Walmart a pair of shoes.
That is still less than 15 minutes of work for us to buy a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
And they had to work 50 hours. They had to work an entire week, and we have to work less than 15 minutes to buy a pair of shoes. And you're telling me prices have risen?
Yeah.
No, they haven't. They've actually gone down. It's just that we don't want to admit that they've gone down because we want to.
Because we won't have the excuse then to whine about our hard lot in life that we're not getting enough money.
Yep.
It's a good thing to use an excuse for an excuse. And what happens is when you see prices, I always say put pen to paper. You don't follow through with it. You look on it's like you look on the surface. And you don't look at what the incomes were back then. You don't look at how many hours they had to work. We never follow through on these things. We just look at the surface, and we're going to get into some other videos about hidden spending costs and things eventually. See, we're not really using our head and seriously looking and calculating everything out with a pen and paper to figure this stuff. We just look at the surface. And I want you to start thinking. Oh, I won't say this. You need to start thinking. Tara would just hit me. But you need to start thinking, really. We've gotten so lazy. We don't want to even figure out anything. We don't want to calculate anything up. You've got to start figuring things out. One other thing, too, I want to touch on. We're seeing a lot now about needing the minimum wage raised, and people keep saying, I can't live off of what the minimum wage is and that type of thing. And before you say, I don't understand, I have lived off lower than the minimum wage for years now. I have not brought in what most people that do minimum wage, I have not gotten that income for years. The minimum wage now, people for minimum wage now make twice as much as what I live off of every month. So when you say, I can't live off minimum wage, please don't say, I don't understand. I know exactly what that amount is. But in 1938 was when the minimum wage was put into effect and practice. It was 25 cents an hour at that time. Now, if you translate that over into the currency for now, we should be getting, with inflation and all that type of thing, we should be getting $4.19 an hour for minimum wage. And as you know, it's double and in some places triple, and they're trying to get even more than that now. So that shows you how we're getting way more income with cheaper prices compared to back then. They were getting less income with higher prices. And you've got to really understand that. You are living in a very wonderful time and age, and
very wealthy
time, and you should not be complaining because we are so blessed. We can't even.
Yeah.
And you should be falling on your knees thanking God that He put you in this time period to live in, because half the people now that we're living now would never have survived if they'd been transported back to that time. You would not have survived.
Yeah.
So you need to be grateful. Really think about it. Next time you start to holler about, I don't have enough money or I can't do this, stop and think about these numbers and prices and recognize that it could be so much worse. And that's kind of what we're doing this, we want you to get up, look at your finances, be brave about it.
Stop making excuses.
Don't make excuses. Acknowledge what they are and then adjust them. Adjust them to what you need.
Yeah, and that goes so far as if you cannot afford the house you are in, move.
Sell it.
sell everything you own to pay for moving and move to a cheaper state, move to a cheaper house, you can do it. If you need to get a second job for 2 or 3 months to get the money to move.
Do what it takes.
Really, there's a reason why Mom and, well, especially me, but there's a reason why I do not put up with people making excuses, because it's exactly what it is. I absolutely cringe every single time on our grocery group when someone says, well, I can't afford food, blah, blah, blah. Now,
and if you can't afford it, well, you have to go on a diet real fast.
Here's the thing. There are cases that truly need help from food pantries. I can also tell you, 95% of those people don't actually need help. If they would get their finances in order, they would be able to afford the food that they can buy. And I'm not saying you shouldn't never go to food pantries, but these people who are chronically going to food pantries, and I know from firsthand experience of a lot of people who use the food pantries, I have actually seen it. I have been there. I have seen it. I know what goes on. That's why I cringe when somebody says, oh, go use the food pantry. Go use the food pantry. No. Pull up your bootstraps, put on your big girl pants, your big boy pants, and take responsibility for your finances. Well, it is not that bad.
Well, let me tell you something. You may have to sacrifice. You may have to give up something in order to spend money on groceries instead of other things. I knew somebody, and she went to the food pantry all the time. But at the same time, she went and had her hair done.
Nails
she
done?
had money to have her nails done.
Cable.
She went
smartphone.
Shopped to get new clothes all the time. But she went to the food pantry. She was eligible the way her things worked, but she had the money to do that. She wouldn't dream of giving those things up so she could buy food. That's where we go wrong. We have it in our mind. Those are necessities in our mind. You know, having a car is a necessity in our mind. So we wouldn't give up our car payment. We'd go to the food pantry instead. You're going to have to sacrifice. The bottom line is you've got to work hard and sacrifice.
So in 2019, we were kind of working towards a kinder, gentler Tara, but you know what? Tara's thinking she's going the other direction. Because the fact of the matter is, you have got to just flat out stop making excuses, period. And figure out how to make your money work to do it.
Stop whining.
Stop whining about it.
Stop complaining.
Stop saying you can't afford our wonderful book, which pays for itself at the first trip of the grocery store, because we have over 1,500 recipes and articles on our website, livingonadime.com. We also have over 900 videos on YouTube.
And that's Living on a Dime.
There is no reason you can't go and figure this out. Because if you're watching us on the internet now, you have access to the internet. So if you are paying for internet, you need to make that internet earn you money in the form of figuring out how to save money instead of just wasting it on
fluff.
time.
Yeah, instead of watching fluff.
Yep.
Start learning.
So that's our Get It Together, people lecture for this show. Please like, subscribe, and share. Please visit us at livingonadime.com, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.